My name is Sarah Linwood, 38 years old, organizational psychologist. I've made a career out of helping individuals navigate the tangled webs of relationships, providing clarity amid chaos. Ironically, it was my own life that was about to unravel, pushing the boundaries of everything I thought I understood about trust. On an ordinary Tuesday evening, I was curled up on our couch, engrossed in a novel. Mark had sent a text earlier, saying he would be late because of an important meeting. As I read, a creeping sensation of discomfort began to gnaw at me. It felt like an instinct, asserting itself with an intensity that was impossible to ignore. Setting the book down, I grabbed my phone and opened the tracking app one had installed secretly months ago, just as a precaution. When I checked his location, a sense of unease washed over me. He wasn't at the office. My heart raced as I watched the dot on the screen shift towards home. A rush of dread filled me. Moments later, Mark's car pulled into the driveway, but he wasn't alone. Ella's hatchback followed closely behind. A car that had always been a comforting presence in my life, now turning into an ominous sight. I froze, heart thudding painfully in my chest. As they both stepped out, laughter bubbled between them. A sound I had once considered joyful but now echoed like a death knell. Trust shattered with each laugh they shared, the intimate way they moved together only intensifying the betrayal. I could hardly comprehend the enormity of it all. They thought they could bury the truth, but truth is a relentless weed. I reflected, the words cutting through my haze of disbelief. How ironic that the very phrase I often quoted was now haunting me. This wasn't just betrayal. It was the collapse of everything I thought was solid, the betrayal by my husband and my best friend. More painful than the shock of their laughter was the flood of memories crashing over me. The late-night phone calls, Ella's unwavering support, the moments that felt sacred, now tainted by deceit. The realization struck me hard. I had trusted them both wholeheartedly, never questioning what lay beneath the surface. As I stood there, paralyzed by the truth unfurling before me, something within me shifted. I wasn't merely the victim in this saga. I was a strategist armed with analytical prowess. I had spent years dissecting behaviors and motivations. Now it was time to turn those skills inward. In that moment, I felt a surge of resolve. I would not succumb to despair. I would investigate this betrayal methodically, leveraging my knowledge to unearth every secret. I would confront the truth, reclaiming my narrative instead of letting it slip through my fingers. With determination, I turned away from the window. This was just the beginning of my journey into the depths of deception. Mark and Ella had no idea what I was capable of, but soon enough, they would learn not to underestimate the power of the truth. As the echoes of their laughter faded into the evening air, I felt the ground shift beneath me. I needed clarity, so I began to sift through the remnants of my memories. Mark and I had met in college, under circumstances remarkably ordinary yet profoundly significant. Our initial connection was pure serendipity, a shared love for literature that blossomed into late-night study sessions, debates, and eventually, a relationship that felt as natural as breathing. In those early years, we had promised to navigate life together, hand in hand, facing challenges and celebrating victories. I still cherished our wedding day, the sunlight streaming through the trees as I walked down the aisle toward him, a man who seemed unwavering in his devotion. Over the years, however, the contours of our relationship began to shift. The bustling energies of everyday life occasionally masked the stirrings of discontent. Ella had been woven into the fabric of my life long before Mark. We met in high school. A bond formed over shared secrets and musty library books. She was the sister I had chosen, a confidant who engaged in late-night gossip and dreams of the future. Yet, as my relationship with Mark blossomed, I began to notice subtle changes. Ella was not merely supportive. She was eager, almost obsessively so. Her enthusiasm seemed genuine, but deep down, I couldn't help but feel a tinge of discomfort. Over time, my instincts had begun to prick at me. I recalled conversations where Ella would casually dismiss my concerns about Mark's late nights at work. "Oh, you know how ambitious he is," she'd say, with a smile that never quite reached her eyes. Looking back, I was often too consumed by my love for Mark and the excitement of my career to grasp the warning signs. Missing were the crystal-clear moments of honesty that had made our bond so strong. My therapist would say you're projecting. I murmured to myself, reflecting on how my insights into others' behaviors had failed to extend to my own life. I recalled those cold evenings when Mark and I drifted apart. My attempts to reach out met only with distracted nods or averted gazes. I should have seen it then. But the life we built was structured around love, family, and friendship, and I clung to that fiercely. Ella's ambition had taken root. I had convinced myself that her path required my support. Yet I now recognized the thin veil of envy she had worn for years. The late-night phone calls I had thought were friendly check-ins often held a different motive. I could almost hear the faint whispers of her resentment when she spoke about my life compared to hers. And I felt foolish, allowing those moments to drift past unexamined. In the days following my discovery, vivid flashbacks enveloped me. Our couple's outings had often turned into power plays, sprinkled with Ella's coy remarks about Mark's successes. "You've always known how to pick a winner, haven't you, Sarah?" she would say, laughter rich with undertones I had failed to detect. I suppressed a shiver at the memories. I had seen their chemistry in bursts of barely concealed tension that would often manifest during heated discussions about our plans, our future, contrasting with my distant happiness. My profession guided my next steps, lending me the clarity I needed to sift through the mire of erosion that had taken place in my relationships. It was time to excavate every piece of information I could find, to build a framework of observed interactions. I was armed with the knowledge of emotional cues and behavioral patterns that had once been my currency of understanding. I needed to gather evidence, and I would do it discreetly, maintaining a veneer of normalcy. Every detail mattered now. Their body language, the frequency of their interactions, the unspoken messages that lingered in unseen glances. I began to recall the office parties and conference trips, where I often noticed Ella lingering near Mark, her laughter rising just a bit too high, her touches lingering just a bit too long. I resolved to gather insights quietly, to observe and gather ammunition before taking any action. So I devised a plan. I would reach out to mutual friends, posing as inquisitive about my friendships, and casually collect data about their interactions without raising suspicions. Conversations that had once been light-hearted social banter now morphed into strategic inquiries, allowing me to start piecing together the puzzle of betrayal. As I navigated this newly charged terrain, I also reached out to Laura, a colleague whose insight into emotional dynamics had always intrigued me. I needed someone who could help me decipher behaviors objectively, offering an external perspective on the rising tension I was starting to feel. "This isn't a race, it's a war," Laura had advised, leaning forward with a conspiratorial glint in her eyes. "You have the upper hand. You know them better than they know themselves. Lean into that, but keep your cards close to your chest." Her words ignited a fire within me. I was no longer merely a thankless participant in a tragic story. I was preparing to be the protagonist in my own. I would expose the betrayal, dissect the emotions, and unravel the web of deceit they had so carefully woven. With the tools of my profession, I would find clarity in the chaos, and I would navigate this journey toward reclaiming my life, my narrative. What had started as a confrontation of heartbreak would soon transform into an investigation, a quest for truth that would illuminate the dark corners of my betrayal and lead me toward my own liberation. In the weeks that followed my decision to uncover the truth, I found myself wrapped in a calculated calm, a thin veneer hiding the storm brewing inside. Each day morphed into a mission, and I embraced my role as both a sleuth and a strategist. I began observing Mark's evening routines closely, noting any discrepancies. The casual mentions of work emergencies felt increasingly suspect, while weekend plans that used to bring us joy now prickled with doubt. It was time to engage our social circle. I organized a casual gathering, inviting familiar faces that shared laughs and memories over the years. As the laughter filled my apartment, I initiated strategic conversations, maintaining an air of casual curiosity. "Have you all heard any rumors about the changes at Mark's work?" I asked, weaving my inquiry into the conversation effortlessly. "He says there's a new merger. Sounds intense." James, ever the gossip, leaned in. "You mean the one everyone's buzzing about? I hear Ella's been by his side a lot during these projects. They make quite the team." A chill snaked down my spine as I noticed the shared knowing looks around the room. Just working hard together, right? I forced out a laugh, despite my heart racing at the implications of his comments. Another friend piped up. Yeah, I overheard her mention pulling all-nighters. Seems like more than just office buddies, though. A flicker of doubt ignited within me, but I masked it with a practiced smile. This newfound information was like pieces of a broken puzzle falling into place. The evenings morphed into a battleground of social gatherings and friendly inquiries. I soon turned my attention to Ella's social media presence, an online scrapbook of quaint moments between her and Mark. As I scrolled through pictures, seemingly innocent snapshots reflected an intimacy I could no longer ignore. Every like, comment, and tag began to feel like daggers of betrayal. Each piece of evidence enriched my resolve, feeding my need to dig deeper. I also turned to Laura, a trusted colleague, for support. During one of our coffee breaks, I unloaded my emotional turmoil. I'm only gathering pieces, but it feels like they dance around the truth. How do I confront this? Her eyes lit up with understanding. You're sitting on a goldmine of information, she said, leaning forward, which ignited a spark of determination within me. Press on, but tread carefully. You have more control than they realize. That seed of confidence pushed me further. I devised an ultimate plan. Create an environment where Mark and Ella would find themselves naturally exposed to each other. So, I organized a friendly gathering, explicitly pulling them into the mix, ensuring that I remained the composed observer, shielded from their camaraderie. The evening arrived with laughter, dimmed lights, and a gentle hum of anticipation. My heart raced as I moved through the crowd, my eyes constantly drawn to Mark and Ella. Their electricity was palpable, her laughter ringing a tune of shared secrets. Each fleeting touch felt weighty, a reminder of my own betrayal. Just breathe, I kept reminding myself as I watched them interact. It was then that I overheard snippets of their conversation, the intimacy underscoring their words. A roar of emotions welled within me, an unrelenting tide pushing against the walls I had carefully built. Are you okay? A familiar voice broke through my tangle of thoughts. Laura stood beside me, her gaze piercing through the facade. Just processing, I admitted, purposefully shaking off the weight of vulnerability. Focus on gathering what you can. This is your moment, she said quietly, offering both support and encouragement. As the night wore on, I felt the tension between my protective instincts and despair flutter like moths against a flame. I was done being an unwilling participant in this game. I would navigate this arena of deception with unwavering composure, unfurling the web of betrayal as I pieced together the story they had crafted together. Everything was leading up to this. A confrontation awaited on the horizon. I didn't want to let the emotional stakes drown me. I needed to channel my pain into power. I'd find the courage to reveal their deception in a way that would reclaim the narrative. My narrative. The countdown was on. Mark and Ella had no idea what lay ahead. I would expose them as the curtain rose, revealing the truth behind their charade, and reclaim my life from the shadows. The pieces were falling into place, and I would move forward as a force to be reckoned with, rising out of the ashes of their betrayal. As the date for my confrontation loomed closer, each day became an exercise in suppressing anxiety and preparing myself for the inevitable. I meticulously reviewed the evidence I had gathered, feeling both empowered and unsteady as I recognized the weight of the moment approaching. I practiced various scenarios, contemplating how I would expose Mark and Ella's betrayal while maintaining control over my emotions. To execute my plan, I organized a gathering under the guise of celebrating Mark's recent promotion. Everyone was excited, and I noticed how blissfully unaware Mark was, laughing and joking with friends, while Ella maintained her typical charm. But now it felt deceptive. There was no turning back. I had a strategy, and I intended to reveal the truth in front of our friends for maximum impact. When the evening arrived, our apartment resonated with laughter, dimmed lights, and a warm hum of camaraderie. My heart raced as I moved through the crowd, trying to engage everyone while my gaze flitted back to Mark and Ella. The electric chemistry between them sent jolts of anguish through me, each laugh a reminder of the secrets that lay beneath. Just breathe, I whispered to myself, gathering strength. But every snippet of their conversation felt like daggers to my heart. Moments of the past washed over me with raw intensity. Are you okay? Laura's concerned voice pulled me from my reverie. She stood beside me, eyes sharp and unwavering. I'm just processing, I replied, shaking off the trembling vulnerability that threatened to seep through. Focus on gathering what you can. This is your moment, she said quietly, her face a mix of support and encouragement. The atmosphere shifted as I felt the cumulative stress between my protective instincts and the despair brewing like a storm. It was time to act, to break free from this undesired game I had been pulled into. I resolved to play my role as the protagonist in this narrative, determined to lay bare the truth they'd concealed. When I finally spoke to gather everyone's attention, the room fell silent. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I began, my voice steady, but underneath it lay the tension I fought to contain. I think it's important we discuss something crucial about trust in our relationships. As I spoke, I felt the collective curiosity of the group quirk into concern. I locked eyes with Mark and Ella, noticing the edges of their smiles falter slightly. You see, I have recently learned that some foundations in my life weren't as solid as I thought. I believe it's high time we clear the air. Mark's brow furrowed with confusion while Ella's eyes darted around the room, searching for an escape. My resolve strengthened as I laid out the mounting evidence of their deceit. Moments shared behind my back, the late-night messages, and the intimate photos, each revelation eroding the walls of their carefully maintained illusion. Isn't it fascinating how something that started as a mere question can unravel a tapestry of betrayal? I continued, biting back the tumultuous emotions swirling inside me. I catalogued their guilt and squirming discomfort, relishing the power of my position. Sarah, you're misunderstanding. Mark's voice was shaky, but I could see the cracks forming in his carefully crafted facade. The calm tone I tried to maintain began to waver only slightly. Misunderstanding. I shot back, unyielding. You and Ella have woven lies into our friendship. The depth of your betrayal runs deeper than I imagined. Did you think I wouldn't notice the intimacy you've shared, the bond that I have been excluded from? Every exchanged glance and mere whispering between Mark and Ella in that moment amplified the gravity of the situation. I could see friends beside us recoiling, shock washing over their faces as they began to comprehend the history behind my words. Sarah, please. Ella pleaded. We never meant to hurt you. Never meant to hurt me? I echoed, the bitterness surfacing like bile in my throat. You knew of my love and trust for both of you. What I've witnessed today has shattered everything. Each moment was a betrayal, and you expected me to sit quietly. The air grew heavier, suffused with the weight of my words. Friends exchanged glances. Shock mingled with concern, and I became keenly aware of how my truth had thrown them into a turmoil of internal conflict. I paused, letting the silence stretch, feeling the waves of my confrontation sink in. I could see both Mark and Ella grappling with their regrets, their masks slipping as the truth settled over everyone like a shroud. The room was filled with a painful tension, and I reveled in my strength, allowing their discomfort to fuel my resolve. From now on, understand that the bridges you've burned today won't be rebuilt. I can't remain in this constructed reality anymore. While you two were weaving your fancy web, I've been gathering narratives. Not whispers of betrayal, but bold truths. Mark's face displayed the dread of realization, while Ella's composure crumbled under the pressure. I could have described the torrent of emotions surging through me, but instead, I maintained the clarity of purpose that had propelled me through this journey. I believe the truth will lead me toward a brighter future that exists beyond mere shadows, I announced, feeling as if I was shedding the last remnants of their deception. I won't be going back to this life. You've made your choices, and now you must live with them. Turning abruptly, I took a final glimpse at my friends, some shocked, others exchanging whispered questions, yet no longer burdened by the need to conceal my heartbreak. This was the moment of liberation I had long awaited. As I stepped outside, the air cool against my flushed skin, I found the pain eventually subsiding, replaced by a swell of empowerment. I had confronted the truth. I had reclaimed my narrative. The uncertainty that lay ahead no longer frightened me. It invigorated me. With the weight of betrayal shed, I felt fortified and ready to embrace whatever awaited beyond the ashes of my past. Walking away from that evening, My heart pounded not just from the adrenaline of confrontation, but from a newfound sense of freedom. The dark clouds that had loomed over me for so long were beginning to dissipate, giving way to a light that felt almost foreign. I've always defined myself through relationships, with Mark, with Ella, and with our circle of friends. Now it was time to redefine my identity back to its core, free from their influence. I took a few deep breaths, inhaling the crisp night air, attempting to ground myself in this new reality. Each step was laden with a mixture of empowerment and uncertainty, the thrill of liberation mixing with the gravity of loss. I couldn't completely shake off the bitterness. Pain still clung to my heart, but it was shockingly overshadowed by resolve. The next few days were a whirlwind of mixed emotions. My phone buzzed incessantly as friends reached out for explanations, or to express their support. Some messages were uneasy, filled with sympathy, while others felt suffocatingly judgmental. People torn between loyalty to me and their connections to Mark and Ella. I steeled my heart against their confusion, refraining from responding until I felt ready. Laura became my anchor during this tumultuous time. She reached out constantly, her messages a lifeline to sanity amidst the storm of chaos. We'd meet for coffee, where she'd listen patiently as I spilled my thoughts. "You did the right thing, Sarah," she affirmed one afternoon, her eyes locked onto mine unwavering. "It's better to face the truth, no matter how painful it is." "I know," I replied, but beneath my agreement lay an undercurrent of doubt. But what if I lost Mark and Ella entirely? They were my friends. I've invested years into our relationship, and now? I trailed off, frustration wrestling with my resolve. True friendships built on trust can withstand storms, but those built on deceit never last, she reminded me, punctuating her words with a strength that bolstered my wavering courage. "You're creating space for genuine connections. The rest will fall away for a reason." Over the following weeks, I grappled with the aftermath of my confrontation. I avoided places I once frequented with Mark and Ella. Instead, I found solace in stepping out of my usual routine. I began exploring my passions more deeply, diving into art classes and volunteering at a local charity. Each brushstroke became a cathartic release, coaxing my emotions out into the open canvas, transforming my pain into something beautiful. Yet, lurking in the background were remnants of grief. News trickled in. Mutual friends chose sides. One evening, I received a text from Sasha, a close friend, asking if we could meet. I steeled myself, bracing for a potentially challenging conversation. When we sat across from each other at a cafe, I could sense her hesitation. "I'm really sorry about everything that happened, Sarah," she began, her tone cautious. "I've spoken to both Mark and Ella, and I just want you to know, it's a mess, but they're devastated too." "Good." I blinked, surprising even myself with the fierceness of my talk. "They should be. I'm tired of being the only one left to feel this pain." Sasha shifted uncomfortably, her hands fidgeting around a coffee cup. "But Mark feels guilty. He really didn't mean for it to escalate like this." "Guilt doesn't absolve him of his choices, Sasha," I said, frustration edging my voice. I watched them build that connection right under my nose. Their regret just confirms that they understood the stakes. The conversation turned. Sasha shared glimpses of their reactions, but I found myself growing weary of defending my truth. "I can't be part of that anymore," I stated firmly. "I need to move forward, and for that I need a clean break. Please understand." I realized then that there would be many more conversations like this. Confrontations not of falsehood, but of understanding. And each time, I would assert my space without faltering. As weeks blended into months, I began building new connections. I found strength in authenticity, surrounding myself with people who valued honesty above all else. These new friendships began to bloom, free from the baggage of deceit. I made a conscious effort to engage wholeheartedly, sharing my story of resilience and learning from others as they shared theirs. One night, I stood in front of a canvas, lost in the rhythm of brushstrokes, when suddenly, the doorbell rang, startling me from my trance. I wiped my hands on a rag and opened the door to find Laura, her expression a mix of excitement and trepidation. "Guess what?" she said, practically bouncing. "I think I found something amazing for you." "What is it?" I asked, curiosity piqued. A gallery is opening up next week, and they want local artists to showcase their work. I told them about your pieces and they want to feature you. My heart raced at the thought. Really? Me? Absolutely. You've poured your soul into this. It's time to share it. Laura encouraged, her enthusiasm infectious. Fear and exhilaration twirled within me. But what if? What if no one likes it? Who cares? You've created something meaningful. You're not doing it for them. You're doing it for you. Show them the journey you've been on. Turn that pain into something powerful, she urged, her eyes shimmering with hope. With Laura's confidence bolstering me, I knew this was an opportunity to embrace my journey publicly. The gallery opening became a celebration of triumph and healing. The day arrived, and I stood among strangers and friends, feeling a whole new wave of emotions flood over me. As I spoke to attendees, sharing the story of each piece, I recognized the beauty of vulnerability. It became a space to transform my past pain into passion, to cultivate hope and healing. The connection I established with the crowd carried a warmth that rivaled even the coldest nights before. The healing process continued beyond the walls of the gallery. In nurturing my creativity and forging authentic bonds, I felt a resilient spirit rising from the depths of my betrayal. I faced the specters of my past head-on, finding renewal in unexpected places. The sun began to set that evening, casting a golden hue across the landscape, illuminating my path ahead. I had faced my truth, embraced the painful fallout, and emerged with a sense of self I had long forgotten. I was learning to trust myself again, to recognize my worth even in the aftermath of betrayal. With every passing day, I reclaimed my narrative as my own, ready to embrace the journey that lay ahead. No longer defined by the actions of others, I learned that my story was mine to tell. A tale of resilience and rebirth, strengthened by the ashes I had risen from. The gallery opening had ignited something within me, a fire fueled by purpose and the thrill of reclamation. Standing amidst strangers and friends, I began to feel an old excitement blossom anew. Each smile exchanged, every compliment about my art reinforced the narrative of growth and resilience. The vibrant colors on my canvas mirrored the journey I had embarked upon, transforming my past pain into something beautifully expressive. In the days that followed, the exhibition became a catalyst for change. I ventured out of my comfort zone, diving deeper into my creativity. I enrolled in workshops, joined art classes, and connected with a community that valued authenticity. Each brushstroke was a liberating release, allowing me to explore techniques that had previously intimidated me. Yet, alongside this blossoming creativity lingered an undercurrent of unease. Memories of Mark and Ella periodically washed over me, fleeting reminders of the betrayal that had cut deep. I was proud of my progress, but could not entirely escape the shadows of my past. One crisp evening, Laura texted me with an exciting proposal. Let's take a road trip. A change of scenery might do you good. A road trip? I typed hesitantly. I had just begun to find solace in the routines and spaces I had cultivated. Yes, we can explore new places and gain perspective, she texted back, her enthusiasm palpable. After a moment's pause, I felt a spark of spontaneity growing within me. Okay, let's do it, I replied, excitement mingling with nervousness. It was a chance to embrace the unknown. As we drove, the horizon unfolded before us, the music flowing through the car creating an atmosphere of freedom. Laughter bubbled between us as we discussed dreams and fears, a temporary salve for the wounds of betrayal still lingering. Our destination was a charming seaside town known for its vibrant art scene. Upon arrival, the salty breeze invigorated my senses, gently sweeping away remnants of my former life. We wandered through cobblestone streets, letting inspiration wash over us in colorful murals and local art showcases. One evening, perched on a cliff and watching the sunset, I opened my sketchbook. What if I can't capture this beauty? I confided to Laura, the wave of self-doubt crashing over me. You will, she encouraged. Just let it flow. This is for you. Embracing her words, I lost myself to the moment. The colors on my page transformed into scenes of resilience, telling the story of my journey, from darkness to light. The road trip became not just an escape, but a pathway to self-discovery. We explored hidden beaches, quaint cafes, and engaged in meaningful conversations about art, life, and the complexities of friendships. Whenever thoughts of Mark and Ella surfaced, I acknowledged their presence without letting them define my current reality. They had become shadows, and I was ready to step into the light. Upon returning home, I felt rejuvenated and bold. Each painting I crafted captured the essence of my emotional evolution, my work resonating with newfound strength and hope. Local art enthusiasts began to take notice, and I secured a series of upcoming exhibitions, excited to share my journey with a wider audience. However, life had its way of reminding me of the connections I once cherished. One afternoon, as I was navigating my new projects, a notification pinged on my phone. A message from Mark. The moment I saw his name, a mix of emotions swirled inside me. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to uphold my distance, but another part felt a pull of curiosity. With trembling hands, I decided to respond, cautiously agreeing to meet for coffee. I arrived at the cafe, my heart racing with a blend of anticipation and dread. Mark was already seated, generating a sense of familiarity and discomfort that danced around us like an unwelcome ghost. "Hey," he greeted, his expression betraying a nervous mix of hope and regret. "Hi, Mark," I managed, perching myself on the edge of the chair. His voice held a sincerity that struck a chord within me. "I've thought a lot about what happened. I'm really sorry." I crossed my arms defensively, aware that apologies alone wouldn't undo the damage. "Apologies don't change the past," I replied, keeping my gaze steady. "I know," he said, shoulders slumping slightly, "but I've reflected on everything. I've missed having you in my life." His vulnerability stirred something in me, a longing for connection mingling with the bitterness of betrayal. "You made your choices, Mark. I've chosen to find healing beyond that," I asserted plainly. He sighed, looking away for a moment. "I understand. I regret how things unfolded between us." As we spoke, I found myself letting go of some resentment, acknowledging his accountability while maintaining my boundaries. Though the past would always be part of my narrative, I didn't have to let it define the future. After our conversation, I stood up feeling light, as if a weight had been lifted. I realized that while the scars of betrayal would never completely fade, I now had the power to shape my story moving forward. Days turned into weeks, and as I moved deeper into my artistic journey, I found solace within my creativity. A new chapter awaited, one defined not by the shadows of betrayal, but by the resilience I had cultivated. I embraced the myriad hues of my life, ready to paint them on the canvas of my future, forever marked by the lessons of my past but boldly stepping into the light of possibility. After my meeting with Mark, I felt a renewed sense of determination. Weeks passed, and my artistic journey flourished. I dove into my work with an intensity one hadn't known in months. Each brushstroke was a step closer to reclaiming my narrative. The studio became my haven, where chaos transformed into vibrant expressions of my resilience. Excitement surged as I began planning my upcoming exhibition. Eager to share the journey that had shaped me, I immersed myself in my creations, infusing each piece with reflections of my past while embracing the hope of the future. It was exhilarating to visualize my story unfolding through art, a testament to the growth I had achieved. I joined a local artist collective, where I met Ava, a talented painter who captured the essence of renewal in her work. Over shared cups of coffee, our conversations deepened. We spoke of dreams and challenges, as if each dialogue painted a new layer in the canvas of our friendship. Ava's encouragement mirrored Laura's, each interaction building my confidence further. "You're not just painting your past, you're embodying hope for your future," Ava noticed one afternoon, glancing over my latest piece. Her observation struck a chord, igniting an insight within me. "It's true," I acknowledged. "This journey is about transformation." The night of my exhibition loomed closer, mingling anticipation with anxiety. The fear of judgment crept into my thoughts. Would others appreciate the depth of my experience? I reminded myself that my art was for me first. When the day arrived, the gallery radiated with energy, vibrant artworks illuminating the atmosphere. Friends and strangers filled the space, laughter and chatter weaving a tapestry of connection. Each compliment and shared story fueled my passion, validating the vulnerability I had poured into every piece. I spotted Laura across the room, an inviting smile breaking through the crowd. "You've done it," she exclaimed, beaming with pride. In that moment, I felt an overwhelming rush of gratitude. "I couldn't have done this without you," I confessed. As the evening unfolded, I engaged with attendees, sharing the motivations behind my work. Many resonated with my journey, revealing their own struggles and triumphs. It was invigorating to see how art could create connections, a bridge of shared experiences, hinting at the beauty of resilience. Towards the end of the evening, I stepped aside for a moment. The gallery buzzed around me, yet I felt a profound quiet within. I had crafted a narrative from pain, but now it transformed into something meaningful, an offering to the world around me. Amidst this hope for the future, I couldn't shake lingering insecurities. I realized that this was a continuing journey, rather than a destination. Each layer of paint echoed past struggles, but also whispered promises of growth. In the weeks that followed, I continued to explore my creativity, inviting new opportunities. My confidence burgeoned as I embraced art fairs, workshops, and collaborations. There was much to discover beyond the studio walls, vibrant communities waiting, ready to welcome my contributions. Through it all, I remained mindful that the scars of my past, while still present, were not anchors but rather guiding stars, leading me toward paths of boldness and clarity. I began to understand that my journey, once dictated by betrayal, had morphed into one of empowerment and transformation. Standing in the sunlight one afternoon, sketchbook in hand, I felt an exhilarating thrill of possibility. The world waited beyond my canvases, and I was empowered to step into it, not as a survivor but as a creator. With each day, I filled my life and art with color, emotion, and the promise of new beginnings. My narrative was no longer just about the shadows I navigated, but about the vibrant future I was committed to embracing. The exhibitions, the connections, they were simply the beginnings of a much larger journey I was now ready to embark on. A life painted with intent, passion, and resilience.